Hey, Sweat Sisters. Welcome to the Pretty Girl Sweat Show, which highlights women who are balancing demanding careers with a healthy lifestyle and hurdling over personal and professional obstacles. I'm your host, Aeshia DeVore Branch, and each week I have a sister-to-sister chat with an inspiring go-getter, and listeners learn how good things come to those who sweat. If this is your first time listening, what up? You could be anywhere in the world and you're here with me, and I really appreciate that. If you love what you hear, take a second to subscribe to the podcast so you get updates every time we drop a new episode. If you got half a second, leave a rating, which will help other sweat sisters in need of some inspiration find our podcast. If you have a minute, please follow us across all social media platforms. We are at Pretty Girl Sweat on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and YouTube. Use the hashtag PrettyGirlSweat when sharing this episode. And if you have 5 minutes, please leave a review and let us know how we're doing. You're listening to episode 14 of the Pretty Girl Sweat Show. And today I'm catching up with the affirmational trainer, Lita Lewis. The way Lewis sees it, fitness isn't about being skinny or curvy. It's about being the best version of yourself. That means standing by yourself through life's challenges just as much as it means celebrating your physical abilities. The motivational speaker and life coach is all about building strong minds and bodies while sharing her positive messaging via social media. Well, we have one of my favorite people on Pretty Girl Sweat today, which is Lita Lewis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
I run into you quite often, I feel like, throughout the years, but one place I see you all the time is on social media.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the airport, because I think the last time we ran into each other, it was at baggage claim.
It sure was. Right? It sure was. Right. And you travel a lot. So, it's inevitable. Somebody will meet you somewhere in the world at an airport. I'm sure you've bumped into a lot of people before.
Yeah, true. It's a great place to bump into people, especially those you haven't seen for a while. It's kind of ironic how that happens.
So has there, other than myself, has there been anyone that you've run into at the airport that you knew from social media?
Oh gosh, many. But I think for the most part, when I travel and tour with like the Fit Expo, there's a whole bunch of us coming in from different cities, landing in at the same airport, depending on where this expo is. So it's kind of funny how, you follow people that are somewhat perfect strangers, but because you're so familiar with their brand or their business or just their key messaging, you'll find each other walking off the plane and bumping into each other at the terminal or waiting for your bags. And then you kind of connect and meet like you've been friends for years. So, I could list a whole bunch of people, to be completely honest with you. One of my favorites to bump into is my dear friend Marcy Arias and her husband, Stefan Williams. The funny thing is we're good friends. They live maybe 12 minutes from where I reside. And yet months go by until we bump into each other at the airport headed to the same event. So it's kind of funny how that happens.
That's actually pretty hilarious, but that's cool. Really cool. All right. So for anyone out there who doesn't know who Lita Lewis is, or if they've never pressed that follow button on Instagram at Follow the Lita, I'm sure they're listening to your accent and they're like, where is this girl from? Give them a little bit of background on your nationality and your upbringing.
Sure. It's funny that you say that because I definitely have a raspy voice right now. I just came back from a Fit Expo, and I always typically lose my voice. So I have an Australian raspy accent at the moment. However, I did move to the United States in 2007. So I've been here about 11 and a half years. So my accent now is kind of from like the middle of the ocean, as like my parents like to say. I lived in Brooklyn for like 10 years before I moved to LA. And so even when I go back home to Australia, some people will ask me where I'm from because I don't typically sound like a real Aussie. But I grew up in Sydney, Australia, so I definitely consider myself an Aussie.
Well, you sound like one to me, so I don't know what these people hear. Okay, so the difference between growing up in Australia, living in Brooklyn, and now residing in sunny California. What is that? What has that transition
Right.
been like for you throughout the years?
Yeah, well, I mean, the differences are very vast, to be completely honest with you. I think if anything, LA and Sydney might have more similarities. But, I moved to New York City when I was pretty young. I was 23 years old and very, very naive. So everything about that city grabbed my attention and held my attention. Even after 10 years, I found myself looking outside of like the train and just admiring the beauty of New York City and pinching myself that I had been there so long and I could call it home. I didn't leave New York because I hated it. I loved it so much. I just was really tired and exhausted about the winter times. Maybe being that I was raised Aussie, those winter times are really brutal for me every single season. So I left because I was looking for essentially just a better quality of life. And so that's why LA has a hard and strong hold over me now. But now that I live in LA, I definitely find myself missing and craving like the culture and diversity that Brooklyn brought to me and brought to my life. I definitely consider Brooklyn my second home because it's been where I've spent my entire, up to this date, adult life. So it definitely is a second home, but I'm really, really enjoying living in, as you say, sunny California because LA has been good to me.
So you've been blessed enough to live in 3 areas of the world. And you've done this at an age where you were, exposed to healthy living. So maybe you can share with us, where are your favorite places to get fit in Australia versus New York versus LA?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that because when I left Australia at age 23, I wasn't, although living an active lifestyle was really important to me, I wasn't essentially deep in like the health and fitness space. Like I wasn't the type to want to go and do a class anywhere or take a boxing class or a Pilates class or a yoga class. I wasn't really in fitness on that capacity. I was just moving and being active and doing what I loved, which typically meant somewhere on the coast or by the beach, along with just doing some strength training with my cousins who are like professional athletes. They play rugby. So as far as like the best places to work out from my perspective and my experience, I think working out on the beach has been one of my favorites and can also be like a killer workout, especially if you're going to run in soft sand, as well as like run drills in sand, because that's something that's always been important to me, is to just to really move and train for functional strength and endurance. So I would say that for Australia. Regarding New York, that is a good question. I think I've taken a Barry's boot camp in New York City, and it was a really amazing experience. The instructors there are insane, and I love it for that. I've also taken a soul cycle class in New York City, which I always enjoyed. However, now that I've moved to LA, I have not done neither boot camp or soul cycle class, which is pretty sad. But there are some phenomenal classes here that I do enjoy. There's so many that I've experienced. I would probably say the most unique and something that I found surprisingly challenging was Aqua Yoga. So doing yoga on a paddleboard in the middle of the ocean is something very unique to a place like California, which is obviously sunshine all year round and right by the coast. So I would say that would probably be one of my favorites.
Wow. How did your parents influence your healthy lifestyle? Or was it something that just came on your own?
I think I was always supported in anything athletic that I did. I think, my parents would tell you that I was a super, super active kid, and they could never keep me still for too long. And I was always that infant or the toddler that would run away at any given chance. And so immediately my mom knew that she had to get me to some type of sport. So I've always been really involved in athletics. and always supported in doing so. And quite frankly, I think the real truth was for my parents to just ultimately get a break, or at least have some type of avenue where I would just exhaust myself so I would sleep and sit still at night. But I was always supported there. And then track and field became a big part of my childhood, and I ran competitively up until age 18. And, my parents were the first to support that, to run me to all types of track meets throughout the country, and fly to wherever they needed to, send me to some of the best coaches that Australia had to offer. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately I was always supported doing and performing in sports, and something I never take for granted.
Oh. You speak of having the best coaches. Is there one in particular that really played a huge role in your life?
There's two that come to mind that were pretty pivotal in me sort of advancing in track and field. One was a very, very out of the box, quirky, full of life coach that might have stood, literally, she might have been 5 foot, if not maybe 4'11". But her name was Liz Curran, and she took me under her wing when I was very young and saw my potential, probably at age 7 or 8. And I ran under her, was coached by her up until I was about 13 or 14. And she was the first to really be like, this kid has talent. Here's what I'm going to do and how we're going to shape her. And then, in my early teens, I somewhat outgrew her training techniques. And I knew that, I guess my parents knew that I needed something a little bit, needed more guidance more from a technical perspective. And so there was another coach that we just called Big Bill. And we called him Big Bill because he was maybe 6'6" in height and very, very lean, but was ultimately the coach that everybody went to in my particular area where I grew up, as far as speed and explosiveness sort of needed for improvement. So my parents sent me to him, and he took my whole game to a whole nother level. So they're the two coaches that come straight to mind. Oh
gosh, well, I'm right now trying to look at the name of the college or the university that you went to. And I'm like, am I going to say this wrong?
Do you want to take a stab at it, or do you want me to go ahead and say it?
I got to take a stab at it. So hold on, let me see. Okay. It's University of Wollongong?
Close. Very close.
What is it?
So it's pronounced Wollongong.
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 Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So, for short, just UOW.
UOW. Oh, got it.
Very simple. Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because when we talk about coaches and sports, I'm dying to know if you continued track in college.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sadly, sports and taking things to a whole nother level outside of essentially elementary and high school is a little different in Australia. So although here in the United States, I think they're so privileged and so lucky to be able to pursue whatever sport that they excel in on a college level. Provided that you're good enough to do that. In Australia, it becomes self-initiated. Like if you wanted to continue to run track at college, it's something that you do completely separate to your schooling. Mm-hmm. So you would either be a student, a full-time student that, find yourself a coach, that supports yourself as an athlete in training, financially, et cetera, et cetera. So at that time in my life, especially at 18, I had peaked and ran my very fastest time, I think at age 16, almost 17. And after track meet in my final senior year of high school, I found myself completely burnt out and not being able to barge through the plateau. So when it came to school, I found myself wanting just to focus purely on school, because going to college kind of right out the gate out of high school was really kind of something I was doing for my parents and not really for myself. Mm-hmm. I had great aspirations to travel the world, with a backpack on my back and not go to college straight away. I wanted to defer. So one, I was burnt out from track, which is very sad in hindsight now. I think the only one regret that I have as an adult is that I wish I sort of stuck it through, because I was ranked like top 3 in my particular events in the country. But I think that everything works out the way it's supposed to. And after sort of racing through college and condensing my degree in 3 years, I pursued something else that I always wanted to do, and that was to travel the world. So to answer your question in short, no, sadly, I didn't continue on with my track career. And like I said, it probably is like my one, if I had to pick a regret, that is my one and only regret.
Well, tell us about the biggest risk you've ever taken. Maybe there's a story about that risk and how it elevated or changed your career path.
I think the biggest risk that I've ever taken it kind of stands out as an obvious. I think I was 23 years old and I decided to move to the other side of the world by myself, and move to a city that's known to be like a monster, that being New York City. I'd never been to New York before. I didn't know anybody in New York. I didn't have a job lined up. I also didn't have a place to stay. So I decided to take a one-way ticket with 2 suitcases, land at JFK, and figure my life out from baggage claim, and that, I think in hindsight, was probably stupid. But I was a very tenacious kid with, a backpack full of goals. And so I set out to really conquer, and, grace of God and, a little bit of work ethic, I was able to do so. And I've had no regrets about that at all, because it's really sort of led me to where I am today.
Okay. You have to spill the tea here. So that's definitely a huge risk. So anyone out there who, they may not be coming all the way from Australia, but they may be moving from a small town in the Midwest and wanting to come to New York. How in the world did you figure out how to survive within even just the first month? Like, what were some things or some advice you could give to anyone who wants to dare try that?
That's a loaded question. I think, I could answer this from, my 35-year-old perspective now. And I could also put myself back in my, 23-year-old shoes. I think for the most part, I tell a lot of young people this: when you have an unwavering desire and passion to pursue something or earn something or achieve anything, and it is met with a relentless work ethic, and good planning, it almost seems impossible not to succeed. So I say that to say, when I was 23, it might have seemed very unplanned, naive, and almost silly to think that I should move to the other side of the world without any family, friend support, or even having any idea of New York, let alone like the climate. Even just temperature and the weather was a drastic change for me, let alone everything else that came with it. But with that said, although I didn't have all the, say, fundamentals of where I was going to live, where I was going to, make friends or even find a job, I had this, like I said, unwavering desire to make it work at whatever cost. Now, I also, before I moved from Australia to New York City, I did have a little savings. I did know that although I didn't have a place to stay, that I was going to pay a hotel up front for a specific time. And I was going to give myself that amount of time to make something happen. So I really put myself on a 21-day challenge, if you will, because I only essentially had 21 days to make everything happen. And that's all I could afford at a hotel. And sure enough, by day 19, I had 3 job offers to choose from. I had just signed a lease somewhere to live. And I was very lucky enough to have met a few friends along the way. So I got extremely blessed in a very short period of time. But I say blessed because, I do think that, these types of things never happen on your own or by simply wishing and hoping. I definitely believe that it was my sheer desire and work ethic that landed me 3 job offers and, able to find a great apartment that I loved in Brooklyn and attracting really cool people into my life in a very short period of time that have become my friends even till this day. So moving with passion, moving with an authentic and genuine spirit is always going to attract what is needed in order to accomplish any goal.
I'm inspired. Okay. Okay. So tell us about that first job though, what was the job and what did you specifically do to get your foot in the door?
Yeah. So it's funny. I chose this one particular job because I figured that it'd still allow me to be creative. Now I got my BA in fine arts and design. And I would always consider myself a very creative thinker and doer. So this particular job, its title, if I remember correctly, was like inside sales executive, but I worked for a company that licensed video footage. So something very similar to like a Getty Images. Like they have a library of photos from everywhere, everyone, and people would, license photos to use for whatever. We had, the company I worked for, had a library of video footage that people would license to, for instance, create commercials, put together indie films, and everything under the gamut, right? So I worked in inside sales on smaller accounts. So, your very local TV, TV commercials and even like school projects that needed like a car explosion for something. And I was able to help the creatives kind of piece together what they needed based on the kind of content that I held. So that was the very first job.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty cool.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, bad. And then when did you transition into fitness? When did fitness become a full career for you?
Yeah, so I think I worked corporate for 6 years. I didn't end there being, licensing video. I ended up working with somebody, another company, where basically my hours were insane. I think that there came a point in my life where I was just like, I didn't move to New York to work. I was consistently working and I wanted free time for myself. And so I decided that I, again, was burnt out by the New York City rat race. The only thing that brought me peace was, self-care and doing things that I love for myself, part of which was kind of going in the gym and, exercising beast mode. And I found great peace in doing that. And I decided, amongst a lot of other things that were happening in my life, that I wanted to find what I love, which I had, and somehow find a way to essentially make it a career. And I was super lucky that I was able to do so. Most people don't have the luxury of thinking that way or being able to find an avenue to make that happen. But very abruptly, I left a very stable, well-paying gig to essentially pursue what I love. And it was, a combination of just being burnt out and knowing that I wanted to give my life to a deeper and bigger purpose. So I jumped out of the matrix and I landed myself in fitness.
Yeah. And when do you think the huge turning point came for you, in fitness? Like you were doing it as a passion, you had no idea if it could really turn into a career, but then it did. Like when did that happen?
Yeah, it happened when I was receiving emails from women from literally all over the world. I think I've recanted this a few times where I once received an email from a mother from Texas. She was a single mom of 3 kids. And she said her very youngest, who I think might have been 7 or 8 years old, was a real avid soccer player. But she sadly went through divorce. She went through a depression. She stopped cooking. She said her and her family started eating out and not eating the right foods. Her youngest daughter took it the hardest, emotionally as well. eating badly. She gained a lot of weight. And then one day she came to her mother and she said she no longer wanted to play soccer because she couldn't fit into her uniform and her teammates would make fun of her for being fat. And she said that she was emailing me this, and she said it was then I realized that my choices that I have made for my own self impacted my children in a very unhealthy and selfish way. And I said, enough is enough. So she said she was able to do that or recognize that by following me and sort of reading these daily motivational pieces that clearly I was just sharing because they were helping me personally. But it wasn't until I was listening or reading or receiving, rather, real life stories from perfect strangers that what I was sharing on social media were truly making an impact on other people's lives. And I found myself thinking, wow, that is great influence. That is great power. And it made me feel good. And I wanted more of it. So I got addicted to not just helping myself using health and fitness, also helping others. And that's when things started to change. I was doing something that I love, but in realizing or receiving those types of emails, and that was one of just many stories, I realized that I was going to put purpose behind what I was doing. And that's where things took a big turn for me.
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Where do you find it easiest to reach people in that way? Like, which platforms do you tend to have the strongest connections with people across the country or across the world, for that matter?
Yeah, I think I've always kind of lived pretty heavily on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I've always aspired to try to do more video or even start maybe a podcast or a YouTube channel, because I find myself having more messages to share than showing everybody how to do a proper squat over and over again. Although fitness is very much a part of my life, I realize, especially now, at my age and where I am in my life personally, I find myself more motivated to share more positive affirmations that help people think about optimum health. And by optimum health, I mean, what is health and how do we define health in its totality? Now, a lot of the fitness industry focus on what they see in the mirror, our physical forms, our physical bodies. But I feel like, I know plenty of healthy people, this idea of healthy and fitness and strong, and they look absolutely amazing, right? But I also know many also suffer from low self-esteem or are super insecure. But on the outside, someone would look at them and think that they are the epitome of somebody strong and healthy, which I just don't define as that at all. I think a truly healthy person is somebody that is emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically healthy. And that means someone that is obviously giving much emphasis to self-care, really understanding that one's spirit needs to be nurtured and fed just as the physical body is. So I'm using mainly Instagram in order to share those messages. And my hope and prayer is that they still resonate with women or people in general that choose to follow me.
Yeah. Well, we believe that fitness plus friendship equals fun. So do you find it, do you have a core group of people that you work out with, whether it's, friends, family, et cetera?
I've always actually come from a very self-motivated perspective when it comes to fitness. I could do anything and everything by myself, but I think I really love now sharing like a challenge with friends and family. I love to hike, and being in LA helps me live that type of lifestyle where I can hike anytime, any day, in any season of the year. And they could be of all different fitness levels. And then I have friends that are like just pure beast mode and exceptional athletes that if I chose to work out with them, I know I'm in for a treat. And I have many of them. My own boyfriend, he's former athlete, is really big in functional movement and functional training. Is a speed demon, so I love training with him as far as hitting the track, running hills, and that type of thing. But I definitely prefer to move and encourage those around me that I love most, and that being my family.
So for a young girl out there who is struggling with even getting started with her healthy journey, what advice would you give to her?
I think I always start with this. I start with self-love. I think if you're going to tackle any physical goal, or have fitness goals, you could do so, but the best way to tackle anything is the idea of longevity. And I think when people can first learn to really understand what self-love does for us from a real internal place, I think that it helps marinate an idea that grows, basically plant seeds that encourage people to take on a healthier lifestyle versus tackle a specific goal for a specific time. So my first thing is to, especially when it comes to a first client or even a young person or a young girl looking to tackle goals or increase her health and fitness, is to first start with a reason why. And why always is partnered with self-love. And those that lack self-love typically find it most challenging. So I'd spend time in pulling out and discovering what it is that you love about yourself. Because a lot of change is motivated by something that you hate about yourself. And I never find that anything from hate ever resonates, ever withstands or goes the distance. But when we find reasons to love about ourselves, that tackling our goals make it that much easier.
I couldn't agree with you more. And as I listen to you talk, you must start a podcast. This has to happen. I mean, no, seriously, because not only is your voice unique, but your voice is very comforting.
Oh, really?
It is. It really is. So I'm putting it out there. I'm saying, hey, guys, we need to sign a petition.
Let's
get Lita to start a podcast so we can listen to you.
That is
drop
so
all these gems. I'm just saying you need to do it. I'm putting it out there.
I appreciate you.
You're very welcome. So although I could listen to your voice all day, I'm going to hit you with a few rapid fire questions so we can get to know a lot about you in a short amount of time. So,
okay.
The first thing I want to know is, what is one thing that you do in the morning that sets you up for a successful day?
I take all but 2 to 5 minutes to just be still and sit in gratitude and thank the Lord that I am going to have an amazing day before I have it.
Okay. What's one way that you end your night?
At least 3 days out of the week, I will light a candle and meditate. Again, it could be as short as 5 to 10 minutes. Otherwise, it typically ends with a kiss with my boyfriend, and then we go to sleep.
Oh, great. All right. So which apps, tools, or websites do you use to manage your busy life?
Oh my gosh, I love Headspace. It's a meditative tool, an app that I love. I really stick away from anything that is sort of gossip related. I like to read more than anything. I don't know if I like tech. I'm kind of old school like that. So I refer to books that I sort of love and live by. But I suppose if there was an app out there, I'd definitely say Headspace.
Okay. Well, let's transition to books. What are your favorite books?
The Four Agreements has been something that has been a key staple to just my personal mantra and something I live by. I also read a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And this was right before I moved to the United States on my own. And I found that it gave me the tools to not only find my confidence, but allow kind of my life to live out exactly how it's supposed to and be confident in it basically revealing itself to me. And I'd say last but not least, and there's so many, but these are just ones popping into my head as I speak. Oprah Winfrey, she wrote a book called What I Know for Sure. Mm-hmm. And there are so many golden nuggets in that book that I find I could go back and read it over and over and over again and find something new.
Yeah, those are all great. I have them all in my library. Those are good ones.
Really? There you
Yeah. Okay, so exercise habits. How often do you work out a week?
Good question. It used to be like literally 6 to 7 days. I think that if I work out 3 to 4 days, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and favorite workouts. What do you do the most?
My favorite workouts have not changed. My favorite workout in general is to train lower half. I love training my legs. Some of my favorite leg exercises, key staple movements in building strong legs, and that is walking lunges with dumbbells. I love a heavy deadlift, barbell squats, and leg extensions.
Okay. And what's always in your gym bag?
Hand sanitizer.
Okay.
I live by these Kleenex wet wipes that kill germs also. A little bit of a germaphobe. My Lift sports gear working gloves, or just gloves, training gloves rather. And a huge bottle of water.
Okay. What are some songs on your workout playlist?
I am always motivated by Kanye West's Fade, and not necessarily by the song, but if I could watch that video of Tiana Taylor move, it gets me going every time, and I'm a completely straight woman. Like, that is key. I love that song. I think I'm a 90s hip-hop R&B girl, so geez, it's endless. I put like Pandora or Spotify on, and it's just like 90s and the 2000s hip hop, and I'm set.
Okay. What do you eat right before a workout?
I don't like to eat anything really heavy before a workout, but I most certainly will take a protein shake. So I will drink a plant-based protein before a workout.
And what about after?
Same thing, depending on what time. If I'm training late evening, I will probably finish with a protein drink. If I'm training in the afternoon and eat lunch, I will eat a high protein diet, partnered with vegetables, very low carbs, if any.
Okay, well, I have the pleasure of speaking with a lot of college students. And one issue that they always tell me they have on campus with staying healthy is eating healthy on a budget because they don't have many options.
Sure.
So what advice would you give to them on how they can still eat healthy in college?
Yeah. I mean, when I was in college, everything was an eat out. Like, I was eating out as more often than I should have. So, and I hate to say this because I don't particularly love to do this, but the answer is meal prep, buying food in bulk, and maybe not even necessarily cooking it all on a Sunday ready for the whole week, because by Thursday, Friday, you're not really keen on eating something, near stale or cold or whatnot. But buying in bulk is key, and prepping food that is easy, so you're never discouraged to cook it or prep it, is also important. So I think if you're a college student and money is tight, buy in bulk, and Costco and all these other key grocery stores where you can do so on a budget, and be smart. A freezer is your friend.
Yes, it is. It is. And what's something that you eat on a cheat day that you could care less how many calories are in it? You're
Lord, I think, that could be so many things. I'm a sweet tooth kind of girl on a good day. So I think ice cream is my ultimate. However, I'm kind of dairy free for the most part. So I love me a great creamy cashew milk based ice cream. But the savory, I can never deny good old fashioned pizza or burger and fries. I can't. That's key.
Okay. So you're about to go on a trip and your luggage is packed. You get to the airport. You realize you left this one beauty product and it makes you have to go all the way back home. What is that product?
Oh, God, that's a good question because I really couldn't care less about beauty. You know what? My mother raised me to be very conscious about skincare as far as SPF and looking after my skin, protecting my skin from the sun. So I think what would encourage me to turn back would be my 50 or 75 SPF sunscreen.
Okay. And since Pretty Girls Sweat, what's your favorite brand of deodorant?
Oh, My mother would be so disappointed because she's tried to get me on this organic thing. But I'm a sweater and I sweat multiple times a day and I find it's just not cute. So I'm yet to find a good one. So if you could recommend one, I'd be happy. But I think I'm a big fan of, I think it's Lady Stick, and I'm not sure what brand. Okay. It's called Lady Stick. It's a purple. I mean,
I don't even know.
For those out there that know Lady Stick, you'll know it's the one that gives you like no like white marks on your skin and on your clothes.
I'm gonna check that one out. I use Dove. I use Dove all the time.
Oh,
but
I'm
I'm looking to Lady Stick though, because I'm all about the no residue. So yeah, thank you for that tip. Thank you. And then since we're on the subject of Pretty Girl Sweat, what do those 3 words when combined together mean to you?
Pretty Girl Sweat. Well, I think literally everybody is pretty. I've always said that everybody is beautiful in their own way. So pretty to me in totality means everybody. Girls, it is Pretty Girl Sweat, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes, I think, wait a minute, am I giving you something completely different? So Pretty Girl Sweat basically to me means that as women, as girls, as young adults, we can all be active and honor our health in a way that makes it cool, that makes it exciting, that makes it about bonds and friendships, and not something that is seen like a chore or seen like something that a must do, but something that we want to do.
I couldn't have said it better. Thank you. You nailed it. You nailed it. And so I know one thing that's next for you, which is Pretty Girl Sweat Fest. We cannot wait for you to come.
I am truly looking forward to this.
It's going to be so exciting. And we are truly honored to celebrate you.
Oh.
So what are you looking forward to most?
It's always easy. Whenever it comes to an event, I'm just really looking forward just to meeting and seeing like a bunch of women that I see as just a reflection of myself. Women inspired by fitness, inspired by encouraging one another, and just a unity and love that I think is universal, just condensed in a group or an event. I cannot wait to be a part of that.
Well, we can't wait to have you be a part of it. And one last important thing you want to share with our audience. You have the floor.
Ooh, I always like to encourage people, especially young women, to continue to move forward from a very genuine place. In this day and age, I think everybody's aspiring and inspiring to be someone else or look like someone else. And I am always quick to tell women, young women especially, that you are worthy, that you are loved, and you are perfect being exactly who you are. And when it comes to health and fitness, we just use this as a tool in order to become better versions of ourselves. So if that's a key message that is important to me, that I love to share with others. So that's what I'd leave with them.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This was definitely a treat. Love speaking with you. And we can't wait.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now get to your 5'10".
All right.
All right. We'll talk soon and I'll send you a follow-up on this interview. I'll need pictures and stuff, but I'll just shoot you an email to tell you what I need.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your day. Thank you.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye. And that's Lita. Be sure to follow the Self-Love Ambassador on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Follow the Lita. And check out her website, LitaLewis.com. Join us on Saturday, September 15th for the second annual Pretty Girl Sweat Fest at Atlanta. Grab your squad for the ultimate Sweat Sisterhood Fitness Festival with 700 women, 7 fun workouts, 7 Sweatlebrity honorees, 7 incredible captains, and so much more. With heart-pumping workouts coupled with the dopest female DJs, you get a first-class ticket to your favorite fitness trends and hit songs. When you're not sweating it out, you can refresh and refuel at our hydration stations, Savor Garden filled with deliciously healthy food trucks, a beauty bar, and complimentary swag. Just one more thing before you take off. Do you want to get a short email from Pretty Girl Sweat every Monday and Friday that serves as a daily dose of all things inspiring and allows you priority access to our upcoming events? Just go to prettygirlsweat.com. That's prettygirls with an S, sweat.com. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. And if you sign up, you'll soon discover that there's no hood like sisterhood. Until next time, Always remember that good things come to those who sweat.